I said it last week, and I'm going to say it again, and I'm actually going to do it in post, but I'm throwing Aaron Rodgers' face over Daniel Jones on that intro.
I don't know. I feel like you should wait. Okay.
No. What I'm going to do, and you're going to love this, Gabe. I'm going to leave the Giants uniform. I'm just going to slap his face right on Daniel Jones.
Why would you do that, though?
Right there.
Aaron Rodgers is the coach of the Jets, not the quarterback. Zach Wilson is the quarterback. They're not analogs.
That's true. Welcome to the Blue versus Green Show. If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button on the bottom. If you're back again, just remember to leave some comments on the bottom of this YouTube channel. Let's talk. I'm your host, Walt, and I'm joined on that side by Jose, and on this side by Gabe. Say what's up, guys.
What's up?
What up?
All right. This episode is pretty going to be straightforward because we're going to be talking about the preseason games, right? Giants, Panthers,
yes, sir.
Jets,
yes,
Bucs,
sir.
Right? And we're going to give our takeaways, and I think we should just go ahead and get started. Who wants to go first? Are we doing Giants or are we doing Jets?
I mean, I say let's go Giants. Let's go with the schedule. The Giants played first. We should talk about the Giants first. What did you guys think about the game?
Yeah, the Giants
as Jets fans.
As
Jets fans, the Giants suck. So, it was a terrible game. It was there was no value whatsoever.
Come on.
The best thing about the game was that it ended quickly.
Eli Manning is rolling over in his grave at that play yesterday.
I'm kidding. I'm
awful.
Kidding. I thought there was a lot of positives coming out of that Giants game. Even though the Giants got out to, what was it, a 21-6 halftime lead or something like that. It was
21-6. I thought it was.
Am I thinking
I think it was 21-3. Not even 21,
something like that.
I think it was less than that, but yeah.
Well, I know it couldn't have been the Jet game because the Jets didn't allow the Panthers to score at all.
Oh, we're going to talk about the Jets. We're going to talk about the Jets and how many points they allowed. So don't.
No. But to be, like I said, to be truthful, there was a lot of positive with the Giants thing. I think the second half wasn't the greatest for the Giants, but again, preseason game, you're playing your thirds and your fours at that point. But I'm going to give you just quickly the guys that I thought were incredible. DJ, of course.
My man said incredible. He said incredible.
Listen, I gotta give him props.
Incredible.
I gotta give him props. And you know that I haven't been exactly the biggest DJ fan. I still don't think that he's a top 10 quarterback yet.
That is insane. Oh my god.
But listen, it's not. No. But you gotta understand, that's not a reflection of DJ. That's just, I think there's 10 guys better than him. You know what I'm saying? That I do think that he's a very, very good quarterback. I'm starting to see that, and I'm trying to meet you halfway here. You know what I'm saying? So I do think that DJ has the capability to get into that conversation and break it down without any asterisks involved with him. You know what I'm saying? I think he can break that echelon. But I need to see consistency over years. You know what I'm saying? Like he has, and again, DJ hasn't had the roster to do it, and he's been doing it on his own. Now he's got a roster. Let's see what happens. And most likely, like you said, he'll probably end up in that top 10 conversation. But I need to see it first. You know how I am. I'm a guy that needs to see it. But yes, Friday, DJ showed out. He took that team straight down the field. I mean, that was Mahomes-esque. That was
surgical.
Allen-esque. That was surgical. The man was firing on all cylinders. And the interesting thing, his favorite target, and I told you guys this before, Darren Waller is going to be a freaking beast. If he doesn't get hurt, that man, he's going to break Giant records. Excuse me. So, your wide receiver group was great. I think, they really showed what they can do. I thought Eric Gray played he's showing you that he's going to be a player for you guys. And the defense, there's still some concern there. You know what I'm saying? But there were players that showed out. Jordan Riley was a guy that I enjoyed watching. Deonte Banks, your cornerback, he's looking like he's going to be a stud. So there was a lot of positives coming out of that Giant game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think it was an awesome game to showcase our offense. It's funny because I think that like every team or every coach may approach preseason a little bit differently, like what the point of preseason is for them. And I think that for the Giants, it's not just a tryout. It's like a scheme overview, Hey, let's take a look at like what Daniel Jones is going to do with just the wide receivers. So let's take out our star, running backs or even all running backs just to kind of, focus and dial in on just this one aspect of the game. And look what we got. We got somebody that just went down the field, I think the entire drive total was between 5-6 minutes total max.
Yeah, and he went what, 8 of 9, DJ did?
He went 8 of 9, 69 yards, passing, one, touchdown, of course. And he rushed for 6, but that rush was like, it was like a decisive, that was a designed rush, and
which is something you want to take advantage of.
The RPO.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you take a look at like, this is what the key detail of this game is we had so many receivers on the field. Let's count it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Is that right? 13 receivers. 13 people caught balls in that game. This game, I think, was specifically to see what the wide receiver group is going to do. So I thought that it was an awesome game because on top of that, we have all 3 quarterbacks kind of like within the same realm of ratings. Daniel Jones had 8 of 9, 69 yards. Tyrod Taylor, 9 of 13, 90 yards, also had a touchdown. But then Tommy DeVito, 9 out of 11 with 88 yards, just 2 yards shy of Tyrod Taylor. It would have been awesome if he had completed a touchdown himself, just to be kind of part of the group. I think that we have a little bit of a quarterback problem, a good one, but
that's a good one. Good one to have. And we were talking about this before the show, right? About Tommy DeVito and stuff like that. And Tommy DeVito is definitely a guy that the Giants have to find a way to keep. Now, whether that's practice squad and making sure he gets through waivers, or if they just actually just put him on the 53, they got to find a way to keep him because, like you said when we were talking, his experience at this age, at this stage of the game for him is ridiculous because he looks like he's been there for years. If you didn't know who he was, you'd be like, oh, who's that? Because I haven't seen him in the last couple of years.
Yeah, you think he's a veteran.
Exactly.
He's a veteran that's coming in for a little extra help. Now, we were just speaking about like this little bit of a rule change. Let's go back to that in a little bit, but I want to ask Jose, like I know that Jose, you didn't necessarily get a chance. You got a chance to check out like the NFL condensed game. Tell us a little bit about the NFL condensed, how that was, because I haven't seen like a game through the NFL Network app.
That was just my homework. I did watch the game. I didn't get to see the first quarter because I was actually working.
Okay.
I got stuck on a call essentially at work. Excuse me. But I did get to see the game. I didn't get to see the first quarter, which was one of the most important quarters, but I saw that in the condensed. And I think incredible, astonishing, fantastic, great, fucking awesome. Those are all good words to describe the quarterback play of the Giants in yesterday's game. Everybody showed out. I mean, I feel like Taylor and DeVito are playing really hard for that second position. I think that in terms of keeping DeVito, I don't know that you want to do that, actually. I think you want to sell high on this kid because he's about the same age as Daniel Jones. Like, there's really not going to be a place for him or a spot for him to get into the starting rotation unless you want to keep an expensive backup, possibly. That's what Tyrod Taylor is there for. And if he's going to play like this as a backup for the rest of the season, then that bodes pretty well. As far as the quarterback play, I don't know if you mentioned, Gabe, that it was 10 wide receivers that caught passes, but actually 15 players caught passes yesterday. So it was even more varied than you might have expected. That includes the running back group. You got some show-off performances by Gray, for sure. I was looking at Jayshon Corbin last week because he's been the only Giants running back that's been able to break a big run. That's been a little bit concerning for me. You haven't gotten a run over 10 yards really with anybody. So other than Tyrod Taylor yesterday, who busted a 16-yard run. But I don't think that's going to be a huge concern necessarily going into the season because there is some depth there at running back as well as wide receiver. You got a little bit of had a little bit of fun with Hyatt in yesterday's game with that drop before the nice catch. It was a busted
Hyatt
play.
actually had a good game.
Yeah, he did.
He did have a good game, which was important because his first game wasn't great. So
he looked a little nervous out there at the beginning of the game, actually, too. But he settled down, and then after that drop, he responded well. Like, it was an easy catch that he missed, and then it was a busted play by the defense. But like you said yesterday, Walt, like you have to take advantage of that as a player, and I thought that was pretty fantastic what he did there. As far as the defensive side of the ball, I think that it's still improving. I think this week, what was really good to see from the defensive line is that you got a little bit more push into the backfield. It wasn't necessarily an all-on rush or an all-on attack from the Giants off defensive line for most of the game, but it didn't need to be because they kept the quarterbacks on their toes. They forced them out of the pocket in situations and made them uncomfortable. If you can do that all season, that's all you really need to do. Because the linebackers, I thought, really played great yesterday. To be honest with you, I thought like the linebacker play was pretty standout. You got some great pass defense from Coughlin and a couple of others in the linebacker core. A lot of tackles. They were getting to that first level and making the stops early on. So that was encouraging to see. Again, I thought defensive backs and the passing defense was pretty great yesterday as well. I think that's going to be probably the standout for me, as well as obviously your interior defensive line, one of the best of the league, if not the best, as we've seen recently. So there were a lot of positives. The negatives are the same ones, though, right? I mean, it's penalties and it's maybe depth. Although depth showed up a little bit more yesterday, you all gave up a lot of points in that second half. Your second and third team wasn't really a whole heck of a lot better than their second or third team. So I want to see a little bit more from the second and third squads. With some exceptions. Like I said, there were some real positives there. But it was a good game. It was a step in the right direction. I don't want to necessarily compare it to like last week's performance against the Jets. Different game, different schemes, different ideas of what they were doing in this game.
Different looks, different reasons to play the game.
Different reasons to play this week. But a lot of positives, but those negatives that still exist, like, man, that shit's got to go. You got to get that depth and those penalties under control.
I do want to highlight one guy on the defense that I think is going to be a really, really good player for you guys, Bobby Okereke. He was all over the place, and he did it in 2 quarters. He got 7 tackles in 2 quarters, including 4 solo tackles,
3 assisted. Like that's impressive for a half.
Yeah, I don't think that the Giants have had a linebacker like him in years. He's a guy that he's all over the place. I think what's going to happen is that you're going to see Wink Martindale find ways to use him more in different capacities because he clearly right now is the best guy head and shoulders for that linebacking group. And you can make a case, Dexter Lawrence notwithstanding, that he might be one of the best players on that defense. And
he's on second level.
Exactly.
You don't want to sleep on Javarius Owens, who also had 7 tackles. He also had 4 solo tackles himself. So,
there's a lot of positives.
We got a lot of positives on the interior for sure. I do want to go back a little bit though, because I'm looking at the stats over here, especially with Tyrod Taylor, and another storyline here is not just like I do think that this game, even though Daniel Jones kind of outshined everybody, rightfully so. This is our chance to kind of like strut our stuff out there and show exactly what we got in Daniel Jones. But this is also, I think, a little bit of a hey, let's see what Tyrod can do with Daniel Jones' team, because we saw him rush 3 times for 21 yards, and I think that this was also Dave's like going out there to check out Tyrod. Hey, can you fill Daniel Jones' shoes? the way that Daniel Jones plays the game if he goes down. And I think that this is all kind of like, emergency situation kind of play. Like, hey, like, can we, when we need you, can you fill these shoes? And I think that the unsung hero of the game was actually Tyrod Taylor, playing the way that he did. He only played one quarter, I believe, because I think the second half was all DeVito. But I think he essentially replicated what Daniel Jones did. No.
Yeah. And that brings me to a question that I just thought about, and I'm gonna throw this to you, Gabe, because I want to see what your take as a Giants fan. We've been talking about DeVito and how good he's been playing this preseason, and know the level of experience that he's showing. The thing about it is that if you're gonna try and if you're not keeping 3 quarterbacks, okay, and let's just go on that premise, right? If you're not keeping 3 quarterbacks, definitely, I think all of you guys would agree that DJ's got one spot locked up, right?
Come on.
So now you got to look at that second quarterback, and that is going to really be a toss-up between Tyrod and DeVito. Now, the thing about it is that if you throw DeVito on the practice squad, right, there's a good possibility he may not make it through waivers. So as a Giants fan, would you want to take your chance on putting DeVito on the 53 and trying to move Taylor through waivers to get to the practice squad? Is that a way that you guys can kind of eat your cake and keep it too? You know what I'm saying?
So actually, I do think I want to have DeVito on the 53, and this is why. Okay, like aside from the fact that we do have an opportunity to go into the break glass in case of emergency clause, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Yes. One of the main reasons is that how do you make a defense better? You have a really good quarterback, and if he's on the practice squad, we're going to make our defense better. It's been shown that like the biggest thing that we have is the biggest issue that we have so far in these 2 games is our depth, especially on defense. And if we got to clean up our defense, especially with the penalties, if we got to clean up, our defense, the best way to do that is to have, a real threat, taking them on week in, week out, and the whole break glass in case of emergency thing, which we were kind of alluded to before. There is a rule change that happened. And a little bit more about it. Exactly. We were talking about it. I think you looked up the actual rule itself. Can you enlighten us a little bit over that?
So this directly relates to the NFC Championship game, the one with San Francisco and Philadelphia, because if we all remember, and if you don't, I'll give you a little heads up. That was the game where Brock Purdy got hurt, and then they brought in I forgot who it was afterwards, and he got hurt, and so literally it became the running back who was in the game basically trying to quarterback the team, and it was a fiasco. Probably cost the Niners a shot at the Super Bowl. We will never know, right? But the NFL took that and said, you know what, we need to fix this. So you're going to have your 53-man roster. That is set in stone. You got to get it down. That includes practice squad. But the thing that you can do now on game day with your 46-man active roster, you can activate a guy from the practice squad, and in this case, quarterback, and he will not count on your 46-man roster for game day, which is big, right? Because first of all, that means that now teams can, comfortably carry 2 quarterbacks, knowing that you can have your 3rd quarterback on the practice squad and you can activate him every single game without having it go against your active roster. And the thing about it is that when you and I were discussing it, it also brings a very interesting dynamic to how a GM builds his roster for game day, right? Because now instead of making sure you have a 3rd quarterback just in case, right? Now you can put that spot to another player and another position. For example, like you had mentioned before, Gabe, you can now put in that extra running back, especially if you know that late in the season your running backs are dinged up and stuff like that. Now you have an extra guy that you can put out there, and that impacts the game because now you're and not only that, it impacts the playoffs because now you can rest guys, right? And
yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that it's a really big key thing. I think it's interesting to see. We'll see how the teams play around with this new rule change. I say, like, especially like like I said, I mentioned before we got on that that the running back position would be a position I think to utilize this rule a lot,
right?
Simply because running backs are the ones that go down the most often. So not only could you have like an extra running back just waiting on the sidelines in case something happened, you can also have that running back as a relief. Like, okay, our running back team right now, they're all a little bit exhausted. We need to give them a break. Let's bring this guy in, literally just to play relief,
right.
For like, 5-6 snaps or something like that. And boom, you get them back in, you get the running backs back in nice and refreshed. So I'm really, really excited about this rule change. But I think that this is where the rule change is going to benefit the Giants and Tommy DeVito specifically, and why I think I do want to have Tommy DeVito stay on the squad. Even if it's just for 1 year, maybe he gains the experience, maybe he gets the exposure, that he needs for his career through this season, and then next season, we use him as a valuable asset to trade for something more, while at the same time giving DeVito, a better chance somewhere else.
But before we move on, I just want to make one quick point on the guy that I am raving about for the Giants. That's Waller. It's interesting to note that one drive, Waller played the tight end position, the H-back position, the slot receiver, and wideout, which is going to kind of detail on how they're going to use him this season and how much of a nightmare he's going to be for defensive coordinators.
I'm excited. So, I'm excited for Waller. I'm so excited for Waller. Cannot wait to see this.
Let's get on to the Jets here. The Jets, they had their third preseason game in week 2 of preseason. That's because they had the extra Hall of Fame game. And they played in East Rutherford, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and lost that game 13-6. A very nondescript game coming off of a shutout of the Panthers the week before. There were some very, very positive things out of the loss, however. I thought Zach Wilson played okay. Typical Zach fashion, he showed flashes, particularly on that 39-yard run that he had, which was electric.
I was going to bring that up.
That was electric.
That was an amazing run.
And that spin to free him up was just amazing. That gave me Lamar Jackson vibes,
run,
right?
I think in a bit.
Yeah. So I thought overall he played okay. He didn't have to do much. And they didn't ask him to do much, but I think it's a confidence builder on his part. Again, with the quick throws, which means to me that he's seeing the field better and he's making decisions quicker. We had a couple of injuries. Abanikanda, who's having a good game, had a thigh contusion, which looked scarier than it was. I thought it was a knee, and that's what they were mentioning on the broadcast. But Saleh did confirm afterwards in his press conference that it was a thigh contusion. So hopefully it's not as bad as it looked. Joe Tippmann, I still don't know where he got hurt, but he came out of that with a knee injury, and that's a little problematic because he was having a really, really good training camp preseason. But the positives for me out of that game has to start and end with Mekhi Becton. Mekhi Becton, he didn't start the game, but he came in as in the right tackle position, I think in the second quarter, and he absolutely dominated. I mean, we're talking pancake blocks all over the place. There was at least 2 plays where he moved his defender 7 to 10 yards on the block.
Yeah, he played like a guy that wants a job.
Exactly. And you know what? I think the way that the Jets have been handling him has been perfect, because you know what? They asked him to lose weight. The man was near 400 pounds plus, and he put in the work, and he's down to, I believe, around 350 or something like that.
That's
And
not bad.
He
That's
looks
solid.
looks like a total different man, and that's important because that lessens the stress on his knee, right?
Yeah.
But they asked him to lose the weight. Check. He went and did that. They said, you know what? We want to see you play in a number of snaps. And he's been building. Last night, I believe he had 25 snaps total. And the difference in the running game with Becton in and Becton out, substantial. Because if you look at the stats for him, when he was on the field, 8 carries for 76 yards. When he was off it, 8 carries for 29 yards. That's a big difference.
That is a big difference. Yeah.
So I think Becton was huge for them. I think the last person I'm going to highlight is Zonovan Knight. And Zonovan Knight he played a big role yesterday. That means one of two things to me. Either they're unsure of Zonovan Knight and they wanted to give him some work. And I really do think that he's on the bubble here. He may be the guy that the Jets end up cutting from that running back room, because Abanikanda is definitely going to be there.
Where do you guys get him from?
He was an undrafted free agent last year. We have a ton of those. Tony Adams being one of them. Tony Adams, who hasn't played all 3 preseason games, which leads me to believe that he's going to be the starting safety for the Jets. Michael Carter didn't play at all yesterday, which means that his spot in terms of the running back room is secure. You know that Breece Hall is going to be here. You know that Abanikanda, injury notwithstanding, is going to be here. And
he's going to be here regardless.
And we haven't even seen Dalvin Cook. So I really think that Zonovan Knight, that was his audition tape. And I hate to say it, Zonovan Knight did not really separate himself from the rest of the guys in that room.
Okay. So, yeah. It was I thought a decent showing from Zonovan Knight, and I think that he's probably the guy that I would want to pick just because of Carter's age and things like that. Although I do agree that he's a veteran in the running back room, but I mean he's not really distinguishing himself as somebody who can carry the load if somebody goes down. And we have so much depth at running back, which is a positive concern. Hopefully, Abanikanda comes back and he's healthy, since it wasn't a serious injury that he had yesterday.
Right.
Becton was incredible. Obviously, like we talked about, he was definitely getting people, pushing them upfield, and making just manhandling people on that offensive line, which was exciting to see. Definitely sucks to see Kuntz go down, because he was, I thought, doing pretty well. I think he's obviously still unseasoned, but he's had some solid blocks, and he made some mistakes yesterday and then got injured. He had some penalties that was actually killing the Jets yesterday. That was something that really, really was killing us. It's something that's not
yesterday for them.
Yeah, it's not as often a concern, I think, as it is with the Giants, but it's still a huge weakness with the Jets because we're so inconsistent with our penalties. Some games we'll keep them clean, and some games we're going to get about 9 or 10 penalties or damn near something like that. And yesterday was one of those games where we just could not keep it together. We had 8 penalties in the end for 75 yards. That was huge, and they were in a lot of key situations. So that was something that I really wasn't enjoying watching yesterday. And the other concern, if you really think about it, that was shown off yesterday, that we're forgetting about, right, as Jets fans, because we're kind of on top of the moon having Aaron Rodgers, is we don't really have any quarterback depth whatsoever. I mean, Zach Wilson was solid yesterday. Like you said, his decision-making was more crisp. You could see him making his progressions in a snap and getting the ball out or making the run much more quickly than he did over the last couple of seasons, which, you have to attribute Hackett and Rodgers for giving him probably the tips and then, the mental checks and all of the cues that he needs in order to get that ball out quickly or make the decisions quickly, like he did on that run yesterday. We talked about 6 yards, but it was a really solid run, and it was a solid decision to do it in that situation. But Boyle is awful. I'm sorry. Tim Boyle is really not good. He didn't do good last week. He didn't do good last season. He didn't do good yesterday. Streveler's not going to take us anywhere if something happens. So
Streveler's not on the squad anymore. They cut him.
No, they cut him. See, because he was 1 for 7 a couple of weeks ago in the Hall of Fame game. So he's not taking us anywhere. I mean, the depth at quarterback is a little bit of a concern, because if anything happens to our 39 going on 40-year-old quarterback, I'm not saying that Zach Wilson has not improved, but are we going to go anywhere with an improved Zach Wilson or a good Zach Wilson is the problem.
Well, here's what I would say with this. The backup quarterback in every team is always the media darling, right? Everybody loves a backup quarterback. Mm-hmm. But to be honest, if you take the starting quarterback from any team, irregardless, you're going to struggle, because the backup quarterback is a backup quarterback for a reason, right? So I don't think that's much of a concern, and I think we're probably in a better position than most because our former starting quarterback is the backup here. So he has experience in leading a team because he's done it for 2 seasons, right? With regards to Tim Boyle is here specifically for one reason and one reason only. He was never going to be the backup quarterback for this team. But the reason that he's here is because he has familiarity with the offense because of his time in Green Bay and because of his time backing up Aaron Rodgers. So it's specifically with the fact, right? I know, but specifically for the reason that Aaron Rodgers is not playing preseason games. He may or may not play in the final preseason game here with the Giants. You need a guy there that knows the offense and can run the offense and give at least your wide receivers, your offensive line, your offense period, a feel of how the offense should run. Now, of course, he's not Aaron Rodgers, but that's the only reason why he's here. Because
I mean, look, I think that it's smart. You have a new offensive coordinator, you have new QB, new scheme, new everything. You need someone on the field that's going to help the rest of the team kind of catch up to A-Rod. Otherwise, this whole season would have been essentially a bust. This whole season would have been, hey, let's get to know each other first, and then we'll make a run in year 2 of A-Rod. And I don't think that they can afford to do that. So it was smart to bring Tim Boyle in if the purpose of it is to kind of help the team catch up to speed to this new system and everything. So I personally, I didn't get the chance to see the game. I saw the full highlights of the game, however. So I didn't get a chance to see too many of Zach Wilson's fumbles or indecisions, because the highlights will only ever show the good stuff for the most part.
Sure, of course.
But that little spin move, rush that he did, he looked more like a running back than a quarterback to me. The way that he was running looked more like a running back than a rushing quarterback, right? Like when I think about quarterbacks that rush, they run a certain way. They run like they're always ready to throw the ball, or they run like they're just kind of getting ready to slide or something like that. Zach Wilson ran like he's a running back. He tucked that ball in and he's like moving, jumping, like you're juking and diving and stuff. I looked at that one run and I was like, maybe he should be a running back.
Well, that's one of the concerns that I have with Zach, because Zach doesn't know how to take care of himself, and that wasn't the only instance. He had another run, and instead of doing the right thing that quarterbacks do and slide and try and give yourself up.
Yeah, protect your career, bro.
He's not Josh Allen.
Yeah, and the thing about it, and this kind of lends itself to the mentality that he's had in these last 2 seasons prior, is that Zach Wilson is always trying to make a play, even when you shouldn't be. And that always gets him in trouble. And you're seeing less of it now in this preseason. Yeah. But it's instances like that where you look at it and say, he still has that hero ball mentality yet. Yeah. And that has to go away for him to be successful, because you're right.
This is all still Friday Night Lights for him.
Yeah, he doesn't have the makeup of a Josh Allen, where Josh Allen can take those type of hits because he's a big guy.
Yeah. It's a 23-pound difference, 237 versus 214. Zach Wilson's a tough kid, but he's not that tough.
Exactly. And so, you know what? Zach really needs to kind of find a way to pull back on these things and say, you know what? I've done as far as I got to give myself up. Because like you said, I want to have a long and productive career. That's not how you're going to do it if you're running the ball and then when the defender is coming up, you're lowering your head. You know?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. He looked like a running back, even like his body, and like it was weird. It was weird when I saw it. It just like kind of clicked in my head. I'm like, I don't know. I feel like Zach maybe is in the wrong position, but yeah, I think overall, like I think both teams, you know, went out and did what they needed to do, which was evaluate certain pieces. I think that's what game 2 kind of usually is in preseason, right? Like game 1, it's like, hey, this is dress rehearsal. Let's see what's up. Game 2 is, all right, let's see what improvements we need to make in very specific areas. And I think game 3 of the preseason next week, game 4 for you guys, I think this is going to be the closest to our day 1 readiness. So I do think that we are going to see A-Rod dress up at least for one drive, at least for like one full drive. So
I agree.
First drive, and it's
like Daniel Jones yesterday.
Giants, so it's almost like you have to give the people what they want. I can't see them not give us, like A-Rod versus Daniel Jones first quarter, first drive, at least that. If anything, it'll be a really good, like, kind of like, I guess, a trailer for the actual game that we're going to see in season. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I do think at some point Aaron Rodgers does need to step on the field for the preseason just to get some in-game action. Like training camp is one thing, but in-game action is a totally different thing. I mean,
but maybe not for Aaron Rodgers.
Maybe, but
that's the case. I would say that's the case for 99.9% of players, but there's that 0.1% that are Tom Brady's, that are Aaron Rodgers, that are Peyton Manning's, where they can literally climb out of bed and just step on the field, and it's just another day.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers hasn't played in the preseason the last few years anyway, so like it's historically what he would do. He wouldn't.
No.
But I think one drive is something that will happen.
Maybe I'm not putting this in the right context, because I'm not speaking about Aaron Rodgers' preparedness. I'm talking more along the lines of Garrett Wilson being familiar with him. I'm talking about guys like McCole Hardman getting comfortable with him. That's what I mean when Aaron Rodgers has to be on for at least one series or so, because Aaron Rodgers, you're correct. He's done this for 19 years. He knows how to prepare himself for a season. But the problem is these other guys, and they're young. They have no experience with Aaron Rodgers in game. And that's why I say I think it's more important for Aaron Rodgers, not for his sake, but for everybody else's, because they need to get that chemistry going. And at least if you're doing it with one drive with live action, maybe you get there just a little bit quicker. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, you're right. You definitely don't want them to be like kind of caught deer in the headlights when it's game 1 and Aaron Rodgers throws a beaming ball at you and you're just not ready because you haven't played with him in front of the crowd. You know what I mean?
Right,
dressed up with all the lights and everything. So you're absolutely right. So then for your sake, I hope he plays next week. I hope.
Yeah, I do.
He's going to go out there. He's going to flip one pass to Garrett Wilson. He's going to wave to the crowd, and then he's going to go back into the stands.
And I hope
he's going to do his little patented handshake.
Put
it out, and then find a player to put it out on.
You know what they're doing when they're on their free time.
The NFL wasn't happy about that, right? You know that.
I'm sure
that's why they did it.
They actually put it out, and they're trying to stop him from doing that, because
that's why they're doing it.
They don't like the fact that he's doing this.
They might stop him from doing it by calling what is it? What's the celebration penalty?
Unsportsmanlike conduct.
Unsportsmanlike, I guess. Yeah.
Something like that, right?
Yeah, probably something like that.
Well, the one thing I do want to hear.
I hope I see it at least once in season.
They'll take the fine.
The one thing I do want to hear from this week for the Jets is Becton playing practicing with the first team. I think he's earned it. And in terms of the offensive line, I really do think that you're going to end up with an offensive line of Conor McGregor for the Jets, Mekhi Becton, AVT, Dwayne Brown, who's expected to start practicing.
Wait, you guys have
this
a Conor
week.
McGregor?
Yeah, we do. No, Conor McGovern. I'm sorry, Conor McGovern. Same difference. Same difference.
Like, Conor McGregor. What the hell?
No, same difference. Same difference. You know, I'm pretty sure they're both Irish and they're both probably kicking ass in bars somewhere. So, you know what I'm saying? No, Conor McGovern is probably going to win the starting center lineup. Joe Tippmann is making a lot of strides here, but I think you start with the guy that's been there the most, and you know maybe in season you see Tippmann take that over. But I really do think the starting five for the Jets on week 1 is going to be McGovern, not McGregor. It's going to be AVT. It's going to be Becton. It's going to be Tomlinson, and I believe that Dwayne Brown, being the wily veteran that he is, even though he hasn't played at all during camp, he's probably going to take that last spot. So I think that's going to be your starting five in terms of the Jets offense. And I got to be honest with you, that's not a bad starting five. You know, take away Becton, that's exactly the same squad that you had last year, and they started 7-4. So, you know, I think that's a pretty good squad. If you add Becton there, that just kind of like levels them up in terms of the thing. Now the thing is, let's stay healthy, guys. That's the most important part for that offensive line. Let's stay healthy,
guys.
You know.
Yeah, A-Rod seems to favor Becton as well. They're gonna go have a bite to eat. That's how they closed out, I think, last week's Hard Knocks, right?
Yes.
They're gonna grab dinner together. So he favors him. We should as well. Let's listen to A-Rod now.
We're wrapping up now, and this is going to be on the podcast. But really, really quickly, what do you guys think of Hard Knocks?
I haven't seen it, unfortunately.
Oh, you haven't seen it yet? Okay.
I am on vacation. I don't know if you guys, you guys know, but I don't know if anybody can tell that I'm not in my usual space that has been following us along. I'm in Panama at the moment, and I have been enjoying the nice, sunny, sometimes drizzling weather over here on the beaches instead of thinking about the Jets.
In the canal. Have you visited the canal?
Actually, the canal looks like the Jets jersey right now, so I'm not visiting the canal.
What? How does that work?
I don't know. The water in there looks like green and grimy when we pass by. I thought about like taking a trip out to the canal, just kind of like do like a little bit of a tour and stuff, but it didn't look healthily, cleaned and stuff. I was like muddy all the way around. I think I'm good. So
Panama's rooting for the Jets.
There you go. What about you, Jose? What do you think about the Hard Knocks episode?
It was cleaning up the narrative that Saleh was not the coach.
Yeah, he lit into the offensive line.
Not if Tiki has anything to say about it.
I didn't want to say it because I know you got to go get some snacks.
So that's our show, guys. That's all we're saying. That's all we're saying. Like cleaning up the narrative.
So
that's why I kept it short.
Hey, we don't need to get into it. We don't have another hour to talk about your thoughts on Tiki.
Focus on the word narrative.
Just as inside baseball for everybody, me and Gabe have a difference in opinion on one of the New York sports hosts here on radio in WFAN. His name is Tiki Barber. He's a former Giants running back, and I was triggered by some of his comments that led to an insane Instagram chat that lasted two hours or so, right? Of us arguing whether Tiki is insane and off his rocker or what have you. So we'll save you the details, but I'll just let you know, I think Tiki is insane. And we'll end the show on that note.
Spoken like a true Jets fan. All right. I think that's the end of our show.
Yes, sir.
We'll leave it at that.
So guys,
maybe one day we can get Tiki on here. We'll see if we get Tiki to replace me for an episode.
I'm going to quit practice. I'm going to cancel practice on that day. and I'll show up for it anyway, Tiki. But yes, no, that's never gonna happen. Not as long as I'm running the show. Tiki's not welcome here.
You're not invited to our show.
Nope.
Tiki.
All right. Anyway, guys, thank you again for hanging out on this journey for us. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're also on any podcast app that you wish to subscribe to, and definitely check out our Instagram and mostly our Twitter. Our Twitter is a lot of reposts of all the news and things of the day when it comes to Giants and Jets. But again, next week it's Giants and Jets. So wait. Until then, people, go Giants
and go Jets.
And go Jets.
God, I can't believe I didn't even like that coming out of my mouth.
Get used to it because it's going to be happening a lot, especially next week.
I will never say go Jets again.
All right. Later,
go
people.
Jets.